So in our create player script, we will go over and, we don't actually delete them. We will use the mono behavior in this case because we need that one on a game object later on, and we want to do some funny stuff in there. We don't need update, we don't only use start later on. So at first we need some variables once again. So the first one is going to be of type base player class, and this is going to be called a new player. So new player will later on hold all the stats and all the information once we are starting to create it, basically. So what we do is in start is we set our new player is going to be equal to a new player class or to a new base player class. Like this and like that. So we fill in a new player or give a new player everything what we have as information in the base player class. So we have the possibility to access base player class, or in this case new player, and pass in any parameter and any stats and everything else we need. And that's what we will need to work with. Also, what we can do in here is we can define several other things what we need for the UI at first. So gonna create them first. So what we want to do is we want to access all the text elements we have in the UI itself, which are all those numbers and the points to spend. And that's what we want to do and create it first. So to use text elements, we need to make sure that we say using Unity Engine .ui. .ui. And this is a way how we can actually use text and image elements and so on and so forth. We don't need to actually use text image elements, but text elements. So we say public text, and the first one is going to be our strength text. Now we go over and do that, all of that, for all our other stats. So public text, and this is going to be our wisdom text. Next one is, let me type this one with a big T. Next one is a public, again of type text, agility text. So the next one is a public text, armor text. Then we have a public text, hit points. Points text, no typos. And the last one, or almost the last one, is going to be the region text. Okay, that's what we will see or make visible for the user what this character is about. The next one is we need a private variable in here, so we want to have some points to spend. So it's going to be an integer, and it's going to be points to spend. And I maybe want to give that guys 20 points, which they are able to spend into the whole character before they actually start the game. So also what we need is for the points to spend is another text variable, so we can pass in the text parameter directly from the points to spend into the points text field. So we call this one points text. Don't forget to save. And what we now do is we create several functions to handle all the inputs and take everything we need. So what we want to start with is the archer, the warrior, and the mage button. So when we are pressing on that specific buttons, we want to make sure that we are able to set the right classes to everything. So what we say is going to be a public of type void, since we don't return anything. Don't forget to write everything correct. And we say set archer class. So when we are calling this set archer class, what we want to do is we want to set our new player dot, and what we have in here is the player class. Oh, we forgot to create the constructors for those three things in here. So let's do that pretty quick. The first one is public string with a big P player name, and setting up all that setters and getters pretty quick. So what we do is we say get in curly brackets return, and what we want to return is the player name and a semicolon, and in the next line we say set player name is going to be value, and we need another int. So I take this strength one and copy this one over, and this is in this case the player level with a big P, and in here we return the player level with a small p, and again the player level with a small p. Set this value, and the last one is a class. So what we say is public base class, and it's going to be the player class, and in curly brackets again the getter and the setter. So what we want to do is we want to return the base the player class with a small p, set the player class to the value if we are reading it, if we are writing into it. Okay, so now in create player we should have the possibility to say new player dot, and here we have the player class. As you can see, we have now access to the class, and what we do is we want to set this one to new, and in here we have the base arch class. Now we have all the data in the player class in this new player we just created on start. Actually, we can do that at any point. There is no limitation for this. And set this one to the base archer class, and we have automatically all informations which are already in the base archer class, like the strengths and wisdom and so on, directly in the player class stored. And what we now need to do is we need to set all that class informations directly to the stats of the new player. So what we say is new player.strengths is going to be equal to the player class info, and this is what we just already took, is going to be the player class dot, and in here of course we need the strengths, which is directly inside of it. Now we can go over and copy that line 5 times, and instead of strengths we just say in here it's going to be wisdom, and in the end it's going to be wisdom 2. Then we have in here the agility, and in the end we also have agility. Then we have the armor, and in the very end we also have the armor. Then we have the hit points, and the hit points again, and in the very last it's going to be regeneration, and the last one here is also regeneration. Okay, don't forget to save. And what we also want to do is once we are pressing on that button we want to reset the points to spend. So at the very first, before we actually set everything, we say points to spend is going to be equal to 20. We set the class and we set everything, but in the very end we need to update the GUI, or the user interface, the UI. Don't forget to save. What we now can do is we can copy all of that over, and instead of set archer class we can rename that to base mage class, and we can just rename this one, or actually take the base mage class, but we don't need to take anything else once again. And the last one is going to be our base warrior class. So we rename that to warrior, set warrior class, and in here it's going to be base warrior class. Save. And yeah, that's what we need to call from the 3 buttons we have. Again, if you have done the nation select and corrected select one, then we'll call this function from that point. The next one is we want to update all the UI elements. So we create a new function and call this one just void update UI. This does not need to be public, so we only access it from inside. So what we want to do is we want to take the strength text dot text and want to set this one to the new player. Oops. To new player.strengths. And we need to convert this to a string, so we say dot toString brackets. And the same is going to be for wisdom text. Dot text is going to be equal to new player dot wisdom dot toString brackets and the line. Same for agility. Agility text dot text is going to be equal to new player dot agility dot toString brackets and the line. Same thing for armor text. Dot text is going to be equal to new player dot armor dot toString brackets and the line. Same for hit points. Hit points text dot text is going to be equal to new player dot hit points dot toString. And the last one is going to be the region text dot text is going to be equal to new player dot regeneration dot toString and whoops and the line completely. And the last one is going to be, we want to also update the points text. So the points to spend text is points text dot text is going to be equal to points to spend dot toString. Okay, so this is what we are going to do in our user interface. So we also so we just go over and update the UI at that point in here. So we call that function in every of one of those classes, basically, like this. Don't forget to save the script once again. And now, what we now need to do is we want to make sure that we set strings, for example, with 2 buttons, but I want to make sure that I only create one function for this. So what we need to do is this needs to be public. It will not return anything once again. It's of type void, and we say set strings. And this set strings function will just take one argument of type int, and it's going to be the amount we want to change whatever value. And now, in this case, it's going to be the strength value, of course, in this particular function. So what we want to do is, at first we want to check if there is any new player if the new player already has a class. So if the new player dot player class is going to be or is actually set by anything. So we want to make sure it's not equal to null. So if there is nothing inside, don't just go over and do anything at that point. But if so, then just basically add points to the class. So what we want to do is we say if the amount we are going to pass in is going to be greater than 0. So if that means if it is a positive value, nothing else, just positive, we want to make sure that we are set, or actually check if points to spend is going to be greater than 0 too. So we actually have points in which we are able to spend. And the next one is going to be we actually set the new player.strings, not player name, the new player.strings plus equal the amount. So you can later on decide whatever the amount is directly in the inspector. Also what we want to do is we want to set the points to spend minus equal whatever it is going to cost, in this case -1. No, oh yes, it's -1. And after that one we want to make sure that we are going to update the GUI. And that brackets too. Don't forget to save. So if this is not the case and amount, for example, is not greater than 0 but smaller than 0, we need another statement. It's else if the amount is going to be smaller than 0, because we can also get our points back, and new player.strings is going to be bigger actually as the new player.playerClass.strings, which is the already stored one. So we are not able to get under the amount which is actually saved for that particular class. So if amount is smaller than 0, in this case it's going to be a negative value of -1 in this case, and we want to make sure that the strength of the current player is bigger than the already stored one, then we have the possibility to decrease the points, and that's what we want to take care of. So what we say is a new player.strings is going to be increased again by amount. So again, whatever amount that is. And the points to spend plus equal 1. So we get back our point, which we already have sent it in. And we have the possibility to do so. And of course, we want to make sure that we update the UI once again. Don't forget to save. And you can also pass in a small debug line after that if statement. So if there is nothing in or whatever, you can at that point say else debug.log or whatever. You can also show the user any window. For example, you haven't chosen any class, so don't press on buttons you actually don't rely to. No class chosen. And that's what will come over in the console when no player class has been chosen. And that's pretty much it for that strings button. And what I can go over and do is I can duplicate that once again 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since it's going to be a pretty big one, I believe I will go over and clamp something together in here. In this case, I call this function set wisdom, since we want to make sure that everything is correct. We want to make sure actually all of that is the same, but instead of that, we just say everything where is strings. I just double tap with my mouse and make it to wisdom. Wisdom here. And that's pretty much it. And the same, we can just close this one. The same for this is going to be called set agility, and in here also agility, in here agility, whoops, in there agility. And the last one is going to be this one, also agility. Give me a second. Yep, everything is correct. Reduce that, and the next one is going to be the armor. So this is going to be armor, this is going to be armor, this is going to be armor, and this one too. And if you want to increase the armor by whatever more amount of power points, you can always do so in the inspector, as I said already. And the next one is going to be our hit points. So we set our hit points in here, and here it's going to be hit points, and here, and here, and in here too. And then we also have one more of them, which is going to be for our regeneration. And in here we have also regeneration, 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 and the last one, regeneration. Don't forget to save once again. And now everything is set up for this, but we actually didn't create anything to create our player class. I go over and reduce everything in here so I don't get too much confused. And what I want to do is in the very top, it basically doesn't matter where I want to do that, I want to create another function, and this function will take care of what, or actually create the actual player, which we are later on able to use to save and load the data. So what we do is we create a new public one. It's going to be of type void, since it returns doesn't return anything, and we call this one create new player. And what we do is we set every information we already have and pass them over to a persistent game object. So new player.player level at first needs to be set, and in this case it's going to be player level 1. Also new player.player name is what we want to take care of. It's going to be equal to player name. We didn't actually created that one, so let's do that pretty quick at the very top. So it's going to be private. It's of type string, and it's called player name. Just copy that one over. And this can be everything. You can actually set this one to nothing or to player 1. Okay, and now we need another game or another script first, where we have the possibility to store the informations and take them, or make a persistent game object and store that data and take that with us in the next scene. So what we do is we create a new empty game object wherever you want to. And this is going to be our GameInfo or game manager object. You can decide what you want to call this. And we want to create a new script, so we say create new C# script. It's going to be GameInfo. So when we are opening this one up, this will have basically all the stats in a static variables. So what GameInfo will have at first is a wake function. So we say, I believe it's a big A. So void awake, we want to make sure that this is going to be a persistent or not destroyable game object. So we say don't destroy on load, and on normal brackets we say this is dot game object. We don't need anything else for this one, so we can take this game object later on and drag this one or pass this one into the next scene. And now we need some public static variables. In this case, it's going to be the first one is going to be the string. And what we do is we simplify all the getters and setters. And what I mean by that is we just say in curly brackets get semicolon set semicolon. That's easier. The easier possibility we already had for our classes itself. So instead of writing everything out, we can just say the short code. This only works in C#, I believe, and just do it like this. The next one is, and here it's going to be player level. This one is going to be not a string. Oh, in this case it's also an integer. This one is of type a base class, and the name is going to be player class, or whatever you want to call it. And now we have all the integers once again, so I copy this line in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is going to be the strengths we just have. This is the agility we just have. The wisdom, oops, the armor, the hit points, and the regeneration. But with a big R. Okay, so save this one too. And now I can drag this GameInfo to my GameInfo game object. And what will happen is when we are loading a new scene from that button, for example, this will persist and will hold or keep holding all the data we just have. And later on also can use that and pass in all the data from the save files and write in all that infos directly into that GameInfo game object script, and can manipulate this to any needs. And later on we can store all that information. When we are leveling up, we will pass in all that parameters only by that game object, basically. Okay, so that's done for that. But what we actually do is we go to our create player class once again, or create player script, and go to our create new player function. And what we want to do is now we want to make sure that we write in every data which is which is currently set into new player, and set this one into the GameInfo. So we have all the information directly in the GameInfo window when we are going to create that specific new player, when it is already set, and everything is set up already. So what we do is we say GameInfo, which is the script we just have, and now we can access all the static variables inside. The first one is the player level, for example, or the name is going to be equal to new player dot player level. So whatever we have stored in new player will now be in the GameInfo player level. And this is going to be all the same stuff we will do for all the other things, like not with a comma, point player name is going to be equal to new player, the player name, GameInfo dot the class, it's going to be the, what did I call it? The player class, of course. It's going to be equal to new player dot player class. Then we have all that other informations like GameInfo.strengths is going to be equal to new player.strengths. GameInfo.agility is going to be equal to new player.agility. GameInfo.wisdom is going to be equal to new player.wisdom. Then again we have GameInfo.armor is going to be equal to new player.armor. GameInfo.hitpoints is going to be equal to new player.hitpoints. And the last one is going to be GameInfo.regeneration is going to be equal to new player dot regeneration, of course. And that's it. What we also can do is, after we have created that, we need to save that all that data with our save script. We don't have that currently, so that's the next step. Thanks for watching the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumb this video up if you like it, and feel free to become my patron or donate by using PayPal to support me and my channel in the future. All links will be below in the description. See you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.